My way of saying, if in 2 weeks from today we see a spike that leads to people getting sicker, it's because we went out this weekend, on a beautiful weekend, and got together when we really shouldn't. The last model we shared, I think the last time I provided modeling was right at the time of that last trajectory change, the 2 weeks after the stay-at-home order. And as you can see, had we continued on that blue line trajectory, the numbers obviously would have looked a lot worse. Within the next few days after releasing the model last time, we saw the trajectory change and the numbers leveled off, and now we're in a much better position. A couple more points. A plateau isn't a perfectly straight line. You know, we're always going to see some blips in the line. It won't be a perfect straight line. But we're in the business of looking at a trend. You know, the average over several days. What does the trend line look like? By the way, we're also in daily contact with our hospitals. What's going on? Are you handling it? Do you see the plateau? Do you feel comfortable? And so as you can see, you know, the trend line is generally flat. So the next question you may be asking yourself is, you know, what's the modeling look like going forward? Where are we going to be going forward? So before I ask David to put up the next slide, I want to give a bit of a caveat, which is we don't really know with precision where we are going to be. The modeling team has put together our best estimate as of now as to where we think we will be. But as we've seen in other states that are past their peak, the virus doesn't necessarily follow the course that they had predicted. We all of us in every state are still learning about the virus. So we'll go ahead and put up slide 2. The blue line on this slide models the trend that we just talked about. And what started as exponential growth mostly leveled off around April 21st. Based on the literature and the experience of other states and other countries, we expect there are probably 2 directions that we can go from here. The first direction is the green line, which is a sustained, though gradually decreasing plateau. While eventually we would still see a decline, it's also possible our experience could be similar to that of Massachusetts, where the plateau has lasted for a couple of weeks. So Massachusetts and Boston, they're ahead of us in this. You know, they hit their peak before we did, and they're a couple weeks ahead of us. And their plateau has lasted for a couple of weeks. Second possibility is the purple line, which represents a more traditional bell curve, something you probably have seen, you know, in the news a lot of, a more traditional bell curve. And that is the more traditional curve with infectious disease. You see it go up, a bit of a plateau, and coming down. The truth is, we're not exactly sure if we will have a sustained plateau with an eventual decline or more of a traditional bell curve. What we do know is that it's likely to be one of these 2 courses, and it's not likely to start moving upward again. That said, you'll notice this projection only goes for the next 2 weeks. That's because the next 2 weeks are based upon what we're doing right now. And I feel confident that the people of Rhode Island have been amazing. And now, in the week that's just happened, people have been obeying the stay-at-home order. People have been wearing their masks when they go to the grocery store. People have been doing social distancing. Our retailers have been amazing. Restaurants have been cooperative. So I have confidence that 2 weeks from now, you know, we're not going to see a spike because folks are doing what they're supposed to do now. Having said that, the question you probably are asking is, okay, so what's going to happen when we start to reopen the economy? And the answer is, we will see as we get there. I'm going to have a lot more to say about that in this coming week or next week. But it's why I'm taking such a gradual approach to reopening the economy. It's why when we start to reopen the economy, we cannot flick the switch. We have to turn the dial and have phase 1 and phase 2. Because we'll try it for a week or two and see what the trend looks like and make sure we don't see a rapid spike. And once we feel safe, then we can continue to reopen. So I hope that's somewhat helpful. As I say, this is highly imperfect. Also, remember, the modeling is just one piece of the puzzle. As we decide when it's safe to reopen our economy, when it's safe to go back out for restaurants, when it's safe to open parks, this is one piece of the puzzle. There are other pieces of the puzzle. How is our testing? What's our hospital situation look like? Make sure no hospitals are overwhelmed. Do we have a 30-day supply of PPE? Can everyone get tested within 24 hours? Can everyone in a vulnerable community get tested? Is our contact tracing where it needs to be? So we're trying to move the whole system to a place of safety, knowing that we're going to be living with the virus for a year, and we're going to have to work through it. We're going to go back to work. We're going to go back to school. We're going to go back to the beach, and the virus is still going to be with us. But because we've made all these changes, we've modified our behavior, we're going to be able to do it confidently and safely. The last, I just want to make 2 notes for people who are struggling to pay the bills, which is many, many, many people right now, and I can't emphasize that enough. I'm so deeply aware of how much people are struggling, and I want you to keep reaching out to me, because the more we know about exactly what you're going through, the more I will do my very best to support you every day, just to try to get through the day, get through the week, get through the month. As I said so many times, the crisis is hitting those hardest who can least afford it. Folks who went into this that were making low wages or were in debt or housing insecure, they are really struggling. They were barely getting by on a good day, and now they're really struggling. And we know that so many people are frankly struggling to pay the rent right now. Last week I said I'd be back with more information about a new rental assistance program, and so I'm very proud to announce today that we have put together a $1.5 million initiative to provide emergency rental assistance, which is available to low-income renters who have been impacted by the COVID-19 emergency, and for people who are at risk of homelessness. So those who can qualify can receive a grant of up to $5,000 to support past due rental payments and other fees. So I want to be clear, this is not money to help you make, next month's rent. This is if you are behind and are facing potential eviction. Reminder, you can't be evicted because until May 17th, the courts are closed. But if you're really behind in your rent, this is $1.5 million, a grant of up to $5,000 to support past due rent payments. It's available now, starting today. You can go to Housing Help RI to view the requirements and apply. If you don't have access to the internet, but you're hearing me say this and this applies to you, I want you to call 211, the United Ways helpline, 211, and ask about the new rental assistance program that the governor just talked about. It's called Housing Help RI. I need to thank Commerce Secretary Pryor and his team and the folks at Rhode Island Housing. They have worked with HUD to make this money available. Thank you for your creativity and the way you move so quickly. So that money is available now, and if you need it, I'd encourage you to apply. Finally, I also want to remind everyone that we have more than 20 financial institutions that have agreed to sign a pledge to provide relief to residential borrowers. All of the participating institutions are listed on the DBR website, dbr.ri.gov. As a reminder, these banks and credit unions and lenders are offering a 90-day grace period for all residential mortgage payments for individuals impacted by the coronavirus. with the opportunity to request even additional relief. They've also agreed to not report late payments to credit reporting agencies for residential borrowers who take advantage of the grace period. And they've agreed to a 60-day moratorium on initiating residential foreclosures and evictions, and an agreement to waive mortgage-related late fees. I cannot thank you enough. To those 20 institutions, and your names are all listed on the DBR website, you're doing the right thing for the right reasons in the middle of a crisis, and you are saving so many Rhode Islanders from financial ruin, and I want to thank you for doing that. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Nicole and then come back for questions.